In this video, I will show you how to create a REST API using Express and MongoDB. This is a great video for beginners. So if you are just starting out, you will build an application really fast. So I'm gonna use Express generator to speed up working with Express, then create the REST API using Express and MongoDB and Mongoose. We will use get, post, patch and delete, validation, and much more as a whole. Okay, like and subscribe, and let's get to it. Let's create the app first of all. So wherever you want, I'm inside of some folder. I'll right click and git bash here. So I'm using git bash on Windows, and I recommend you do as well. So in here I'll say mpx express dash generator and the project name Mongo API, I guess, and I'll also say dash dash no dash view because I don't really need a view. Okay, there we go. Now I'll cd into it as it says, so cd Mongo API and npm I to install. Okay, let's run this npm audit fix -- force. There we go. And lastly, I'll say code and dot to open this project in Visual Studio Code. Okay, great. Let's now run the app and see if it actually works. So hit Ctrl J to open up this panel in VS Code and go to my terminal here. And instead of PowerShell here, I want to use git bash. Okay, so I'll say npm start, and it started. So if I go to localhost 3000, there it is. Okay, the only change I want to make is that I want to actually start, I Ctrl C there to get out. I want to start the application with Nodemon, which will auto restart when there's a change. So if you don't have Nodemon, run Nodemon I-G to install it globally, and I'll just say Nodemon start. Okay, there we go. So basically the same thing, and if I just refresh here, it's all good. Okay, I'll now briefly explain how Express works. So if you already know, then you can just skip to the next part of the video. Okay, so anyway, when we start the application, this bin www file is run. And there's the port 3000. Okay, so that's how I knew where to go, and you can change that if you want. So that's that file, and you can see here it requires the app file, and this app.js is basically the main file of the application. So here we require Express and so on, what we need, but also we require the routes, which are basically controllers in MVC. Okay, so for example here we are requiring the index and users routes and using them here. So what does this mean? This means that if we go to the root of the website, so the root domain, we get the index router and whatever the default is there. And if we go to /users, then we get the default of the users router. Okay, so if I go to routes and index, we can see here that we have this router get, so it's a get request, and /, which means the root. So this is the default route for the index controller, and we can see here it renders this index file, which actually lives in the public folder here, index right here. Okay, and of course in public these folders are the static files of the application, so images, JS and CSS files. Okay, so for users, for example, the default route just sends this text. So to actually see this, let's see again in app.js, and for some reason my files are just switching. I had to double click. In users, the default just sends this text, and we see here that to get to it, we need to go to /users. Okay, so if I go to /users, I get that text. Okay, so that's how it works. And basically, if you weren't using Express generator, you would have to set all this up yourself. So this is really handy. Okay, now let's connect to the database. Before connecting, I want to say that hopefully you have MongoDB installed. I have this Compass GUI, which comes with Mongo, so you need to get to this point yourselves. Okay, hopefully you're here. You can also use Atlas and have a database there, but I'm just gonna be using Mongo on my own machine. Okay, so to connect, it's just the default and no password, so localhost 27017. If I just click connect here, I see this. Okay, so again, hopefully you are here as well. Now let's now install Mongoose and actually connect to the database. To install Mongoose, I will Ctrl J to open my terminal and get rid of this PowerShell here and open a new bash, git bash here. Okay, so I can have the app running and install stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna say here npm I and Mongoose. Okay, there we go. Let's also create the database in MongoDB Compass here. So just click here, create database, and I'll call it Mongo API, and the collection will be customers. Okay, and there we go. So now let me just have this here to connect. First of all, up here, I'm gonna require Mongoose, like so. Shift-Alt-F to format, and let me just have some space between the modules and the controllers here. And now to connect, it's quite easy. I will say here Mongoose and connect, and the URL is MongoDB and localhost, so 127.0.0.1, and the port is 27017, and slash the database name, so Mongo API. Okay, and this is a promise, it returns a promise, so we can say here .then, and let's just console log connected and catch any errors if there are any. So error and just console log as well. Okay, Shift-Alt-F to format. This is what I have. So now if I save the file, and for me it saves when it loses focus, so it basically auto saves. And we can see here connected. Okay, so hopefully you see that as well. And this works, but let's have this database as an environment variable. Okay, so it's not really necessary here, but it's really helpful to have those environment variables. So let's just do it. In here, in the root of the folder, I'm going to create a new file and call it .env. Okay. And here I'll say db equals, and this can be anything. And it's going to be equal to this. Okay, so just copy and paste that like so. And to actually be able to use this, we need another package. Okay, so I'm going to install npm I.env. is the name of the package. Okay, let's include that as well. Shift-Alt down just to duplicate the line. And actually I don't even need this, I just need to say require .env and call its config method. Okay, and now I'll Shift-Alt down this line, I'll just comment it out. Here I'll say process.env and then whatever, or env, and then whatever variable we have there. So db in my case, okay, so whatever you called it. And let's see if this actually works. Let me go to this terminal here and I get connected. Okay, so it's all good. So the way Mongoose works is by creating models, okay? And then those models represent the actual tables or collections in the database. So in the root here, I will create a new folder, call it models. and in it a new file called customer.js. Okay, so this will be my model. And here, first of all, I need to require Mongoose, so let me just copy from here so I don't have to actually write it. Okay, and now I'll say const customer schema is gonna be equal to new Mongoose schema. Okay, so this is the important part. And now here we pass the object, which will be the actual fields basically in the collection. So here I can say, for example, I want to have first name and I want it to be a string. Okay, and you can check the Mongoose documentation to see what you can have, what type of fields. So for example, you can have string, number, date, and so on. Okay, so this is fine, but we can go one step further and actually have this be equal to an object and then say the type is string, but we can also say here that it's required. Okay, which is very good. And so as an array, I'll pass true and the message. So first name is required. Okay, and let me actually have a comma here and shift hold down this twice. And I'm just gonna have a last name, which is basically the same thing, and an email. So email is required. And for this, I'll also say unique true. Okay, so you can do that as well. And that's basically it. I want to keep it simple. We just Shift-Alt-F to format. And we need to export this, so module exports. And by the way, if you don't know how modules work in Node, then make sure to check out my Node Basics video and that section there. Okay, so anyway, I'm gonna say here Mongoose model, and here pass the name, so customer, and whatever this is here, it will be lowercase plural for the collection. Okay, so even if it doesn't exist, this would create it. And pass customer schema here, like so. Shift-Alt-F to format. Okay, so this means that the collection is actually called customers, like so. Okay, so just all lowercase and plural will be the collection name. Okay, great. Let's now create the customers controller. So in routes here, I will create a new file and call it customers.js, and I'm gonna copy from users, okay, into it. And let me get rid of this comment. I want to have a comment, but I have it like this usually. So the request type and then the URL, so /customers, this will be. And here I'll say customers list for now, and we don't need this next here. It's used mostly for middleware to move on in the pipeline, and for this routing it's really not necessary at all, so I'll just get rid of it. And this rec and res, these are important, so this is the request and this is the response. Okay, let me Shift-Alt-F to format, and now in app.js I want to include it here, right? So I'm going to Shift-Alt down this users and call this customers router, which will require, and Control-D in VS Code to select the word, so customers, and then down here, and I don't know why I have customers here. I guess it changed it when I changed the here, somehow it got selected as well and edited at the same time. So you probably have users here for the users router, so let me just say users here as it was, and Shift-Alt down, so Control-D, this will be customers here, and this will be the customers router. Okay, great. So now let me just check that there are no errors. Okay, So now if I go to /customers, I get that response, customers list, okay? And let me also get rid of users. Users router and this here, the index router I'll leave just so we have something on the home page, but users is not needed whatsoever, so from here as well let me just delete it. Okay, great. And now let's actually add that customer to the database. So the first thing to do is import the model here, right? So I'm gonna say const customer, and that's gonna be equal to require, and that's one folder up, and I mean one level up, and models and customers. Shift-Alt-F to format. Okay, so now in here, and this will be async actually, so we're gonna use async await. So to handle errors as well with async await, I'm gonna use try. So try catch like so, and here in try, I'm gonna say const new customer, for example, and that's gonna be equal to await customer create and rec body. Okay, so if that works, I'm gonna say res status and 201 I'll say, so created, and send some JSON as well here. Let's say status success and data, let's just have it in an object, I guess, new customer. Okay, let's actually have this as customer, new customer, and this is supposed to be a capital C. Okay, so that's if it works. If it doesn't work, then I'm just gonna actually copy paste this, and I'll have 400 here and status fail, and the message will just be the actual error. Okay, so get rid of this res send as well, don't need it anymore. Let's Shift-Alt-F this whole thing to format it, and looking good. Okay, so let's try this and see if it even works. So it's the same thing here still. We're still sending this to the correct URL. So let's just do it. Send. And we get 201 here created. So that's great. And this is the response. So we get here success, and this is the data, customer, and whatever it is. And this ID here, underscore ID, is the ID that's been created by Mongo, okay, or Mongoose in this case, I guess, but I mean it happens automatically. We get the ID, and if we go here to our Mongo API in Compass and customers, and we don't have anything here, refresh, and we still don't have anything. Oh, I think it's because I have this capital C here. Let me just actually get rid of the whole thing, and let me show you that this whole thing will actually get created regardless. Even if I don't have the database here, it still should work. So let me just resend this. Okay, so it's all good here, and let's see here, refresh, and here it is, Mongo API again, customers, and there we go. Okay, great. Let's also make sure that our validation works. So if I, let's say, have nothing here for the first name and send, okay, I get status fail here and errors, and the first name is required, so our custom message. Control Z here, get rid of the last name, same thing, okay, great. Control Z, get rid of this, send, same thing, and I have now this email, right? And let me just see here. So if I send again, I get an error. So this 11,000 means a unique error. Okay, so this already exists. So great. And by the way, this can trip you up, this unique. Where is it? Here. It can happen that it doesn't work for whatever reason. So if that happens to you, then just stop the server here first of all, and create a new database here. So 1, 2, 3 or whatever, and then it should work. Okay. But hopefully it's working now as it is for you, as it is for me. Okay. So that works, and that's great. Now we can move on to, let's see, the customer's controller. And here we can now get all customers. So for that, first of all, I'm gonna make this async, get rid of the body there, and copy this code because it's very similar. This is supposed to be async. Okay. So this I will change to customers, and instead of create, this will be find with no parameters. Okay. And the status is gonna be 200 and data customers like so, and error will be the same thing. So let's see if this works. If I'm gonna open a new tab actually, so I keep this post here, just copy and paste. So this is get now, and let's just do it. Okay, and there we go. We get our customers here. Well, 1 for now. So let's just add another here so that we have like 2 or 3. So Mary and Mary Gmail, Mary Jones is fine. Send that post. Okay, seems to have worked. Let's go here, send, and now we have both John and Mary. Okay, great. Let's also do get single while we are here. So I'm just gonna shift all down that, and this will be /:ID in the comment, and here as well :ID. So that means this is a variable, right? It can be anything. And now the difference is this will be find by ID. So how do we pass the ID? Rec params ID. Okay, and I'm gonna change this to customer, and this to 404 not found, and this to customer as well. Okay, so hopefully that should work. Let me just see the IDs here. So this is the ID for Mary, for example. And now if I open a new tab again actually, and let me copy and paste this /the ID. So once again I need to actually copy it and paste it. Okay, send, and let's see what happens, and we get Mary. Okay, great. And if we change this ID to something that doesn't exist, like so, send, and we get the 404 here. Okay, great. Let me just go back to the actual ID that works. Once again, okay, great. Let's now do patch. So for patch, I'm gonna shift all down this one, get single, and the URL is the same, but this will be patch and patch here. Okay. So you can use both put and patch. Patch will just replace whatever you send. You don't need to send the whole thing. So it's really handy. I'll just use patch. Okay, so anyway, in here, this will be find by ID and update. Okay, so that's the method. And we are passing the ID, and then we need to pass the body as well. And we want to return the new object, not the old one. So we want to return the modified one. So we need to actually have a new parameter here, a third one, and say new true. Okay, because it actually defaults to false. Let's see, there we go. And I think that should actually do it. So let's go to Postman and new tab and copy this. So this is Mary, right? Paste that and patch here. And now in the body, let's go to raw here again and JSON. So I just want to actually change a single value, which will be, let's say, the email. So I'll say email and Mary Jones now, and it used to be Mary, right? Mary Jones gmail.com, and yeah, let's see, send, and we get 200 OK here, and here we get the modified version, so the new version, and we actually have Mary Jones here. Okay, and if we just go to get here, get single, so this ID right here is Mary, send, and we have Mary Jones. Okay, great. And let's also do delete now. So I'm going to shift all down this patch, and the URL is the same, but the comment will be delete and delete here. And this will now be find by ID and delete. Okay, and we just need to pass the ID, of course, Shift Alt F to format. And I have here a 204 as the result. Data will actually be null, success, and 404 here is fine for the error. And this looks good, I think it should work. So let's delete Mary as well, because we have here the URL. So copy that, new tab, paste that, and this will now be delete. Send, and we get a 204 no content here, which means it should have worked. Let's check here, refresh, and Mary is no more. Okay, that's gonna be it for this video. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.